Hey everybody, welcome back to SharePoint TV from the 2019 SharePoint Conference. We're getting ready to wrap up day one and we have literally saved the best for the last. Joining us today is Jeff Teper. How are you doing, Jeff?
Hey Bill, good to see you again. Hey Jeff.
Great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us. This is one of those rare opportunities where we're gonna chat with you and let folks in the chat room join in as well.
Yeah, so it's been a really exciting day. It's probably been a really busy day for you.
Yes, it
but
has.
I know this morning the energy of the keynote was high.
Yeah.
You typically, you see keynotes where they're bookended by announcements. In this particular case, it was just a 90-minute stream of announcements, 20 pages of blogs across 10 different blogs.
It was supposed to be 90. I think it was closer to 100, 115.
Yeah. So our 90-minute keynote, there were so many announcements, added another 25 minutes. For this audience in particular, they always love to hear from you. So, one question for you is, looking back on this evolution of SharePoint, and SharePoint's obviously had its ebb and flows, just like anything else. But what probably and this is asking you to kind of identify your favorite child. But at what particular point in SharePoint were you or are you most excited?
Yeah, I try to live in the present. It's very easy to be nostalgic in tech, and that's a fun part of who we are. Somebody told me, I ran into a guy at the airport who had the Tahoe box that I had autographed that you gave out at the SharePoint Saturday in Redmond.
Really?
And it was great. He was really proud of it, and I was excited about it. I've got the Tahoe box. I've got one in my office and one at home, and but you gotta, at some level, relish the past, but you gotta move on. And so, my favorite time to be in SharePoint was right now.
Wow. Yeah. Right. And I think based on the audience reaction and just following on social media, their favorite time to be with SharePoint is right now. One announcement in particular kind of stood out above the rest, and I think we could have probably opened up the keynote with the announcement and then dropped the mic and left. Sight reading.
Yeah. Well, that's at one level sort of an obvious feature we should just do, and the other is it was tricky to make it really work with all the links that people have to sites and actually make the redirect work. So those old emails, that was the biggest part. I heard somebody in the audience yell "No way" when when we opened up Outlook, because they knew it was coming, that they were going to click on the old link in Outlook and the site was going to just redirect and work. So
that was a really cool announcement.
But what's great about that, and what it really shows, is that here was something that folks on User Voice were saying, we really want this. And as a team, we heard and said, okay, we got to make this happen. Are there other features like that from your point of view, you look at and go, you know what, we want to go do more of this? Or
gosh, so many.
Do you want to see more folks participate in that User Voice, and is that going to become a key to strategy?
Yeah. Well, we have to do a good job managing expectations around it. We have done in the last couple of years several hundred booms of things for SharePoint and OneDrive.
There's that explosion.
But there's also things there on User Voice that we haven't gotten to yet. And sometimes people on Twitter will say, hey, what's the deal? There's a lot of people. And we do look at that list. We look at it every quarter. We have 3 or 4 days where we sit together and review all the plans in the team. And we look at the business from a bunch of dimensions. Usage, feedback, User Voice is one. And there's a lot of stuff that we've not gotten to yet. In many cases, some of it's because it's harder than you might think. And that's not an excuse. It's our job. People have given us and
it raises that challenge for the team to manage that expectation.
Yeah, and so that's, User Voice has things we're working on it and thinking about it. And it's totally understandable for people to say, hey, stop thinking, start doing. It's okay. That said, I am incredibly proud of the team and how much work we've done and delivered, some off User Voice, some innovations that people were surprised by. And so there's more work to do. We're going to have fun this week, but then we're going to go back and look at the list of things we got to work on. Some of them are going to be
hit the trenches, start digging.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And I'm definitely really excited about where we're at as well. I mean, I remember joining this little incubation thing, MMS, which eventually grew up in this kind of vision of bringing SharePoint to the cloud. And I look back today, and I remember getting a little plaque celebrating 100,000 users, and it was just so exciting, at that particular time.
I started the keynote for it, and because we had so many demos, I didn't spend as much time on it as I originally envisioned. But I do remember when we were doing the daily builds, and my office was near the stairwell to the cafeteria, and so I would hit install on Tahoe of the daily build, walk down to the cafeteria, get lunch, and then come back, and 20 minutes later, the installation, including the embedded SQL Server, had installed and had automatically crawled to Microsoft Intranet, which they stopped us. They stopped us from doing because everybody in the team was doing it, and to go from there, and we look at the statistics. I look at them. I look at Power BI every day on my phone to the usage statistics of SharePoint Online, sometimes multiple times a day. And it is humbling where you mentioned 100,000 users. There's hours easily where we get 100,000 users if it's sort of the right time in a company onboarding, Monday morning effect. And that is stunning. You sit back and think about, let me visualize the biggest professional sports stadium I've ever been in. 100,000 people, that many human beings with lives and jobs coming to our products for the first time. And so I didn't get as much time to do that as I'd envisioned in the keynote, but it really is. It is humbling, and it's a great responsibility.
One of those big college football stadiums in Tennessee or Michigan or Penn State,
all wearing SharePoint or OneDrive or Teams or Stream shirts, and
that's a lot
waving them and saying, "I want this thing to be great."
Yeah,
that's really exciting. Other than your shoes, there's something else that everybody was
what did I
super excited about? Home sites.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about home sites? And
I love the way we sort of crafted the story because it's real. That we brought up Kevin Schramm from Takeda to talk about their intranet that they rolled out on communication sites and team sites, and how they had to do a bunch of work, including we actually had Dave Feldman come in and represent the work to Satya. We did our SharePoint review with Satya a couple months ago, and we showed him Takeda's work. But we always look at that and say, how could we made it easier, as I talked about in the keynote? And so we have, as you know, an amazing research team that has talks to a lot of customers in breadth, but also talks to some in depth. And so we had a couple of dozen customers come in last year when we were working on this feature, and literally threw up pictures of their intranet around the room, laid into this home sites grid. And we gave them markers, and we said, go around. We want to get this as close to right out of the box as we can. And so go around, X out the things you don't want that you take off, and draw in the things you'd add. And so we laid them all out, and we looked at them, and we sort of said, what will address the most people's needs? And that's what we built. It was very customer driven, and we're pretty excited about it, but it's still customizable. That's the thing. It's still, you can add your own parts as an end user. You can write your own code as the SharePoint framework. You saw the 15 home site partners that we had building their solutions on it. So more out of the box, but continued more new value add.
Yeah, I actually ran into one of our attendees coming down the escalator after the keynote, and in passing, they said there's no excuse not to build your intranet on SharePoint anymore.
Yeah, come on, go do it. It's so gorgeous
with home sites, and definitely home sites are gorgeous. Vesa was just here earlier and showed Lookbook and the provisioning engine and just how easy it is to take a template, get started.
Yeah, that's somebody told me there was a stampede to get the lookbooks today. If you've not. If there's one thing you do, go search on SharePoint Lookbook online and go look at it and go print it out and take it to CorpCom people, because it really conveys just how simple and gorgeous we've made the new SharePoint experience and how adaptable it is. And so we're excited about that, and home sites is the next step.
Yeah, and I think, thinking back to the customers that we've, that have been on the SharePoint journey with us for a long time, branding and theming, you were packaging up a WSP, you were deploying that WSP, and then you were upgrading. And but now, just seeing how easy it is, looking at the dev chain that we have via the SharePoint framework, there's, it allows anybody to take advantage of this. And
that is, I'm so excited about that. When we when I came back to the team and we started to think about where we should go and taking this to the next level, we said, again, going to that, is it an app? It's a platform. What will it take to delight both sets of people? We doubled down on it being an app with this amazing design work you see in the lookbook and SharePoint home sites. But we also doubled down on it being a platform, and as much as symbiotic as SharePoint had been with ASP.NET, the rest of the industry and momentum is around client-side programming with JavaScript, and we leaned into that. And I think people were probably the announcement we made at the Future of SharePoint 3 years ago that people were most surprised about is, oh my God, you're embracing things like React and Yeoman. It's like, holy cow. So I love the fact that we were able to take an experience that delights CorpCom people and build it on a platform that people or mainstream web developers say, that's the right choice, and you're innovating for both end users and developers. That's what SharePoint's about. And so I love that we were able to rekindle that magic.
Yeah, and I think Fluid Framework, another thing. Right there.
Yes. The great integrations with Teams, the new updates for OneDrive, great stuff that we're seeing for security, the multi-geo support.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite parts of the keynote was when Caruana, longtime SharePoint community member, now in Microsoft Teams team, so a very close buddy of ours, she showed the work we've done so that sort of lists and files that have very rich SharePoint views with conditional formatting and even images and flows working on that. You get those right inside Teams, and they can interact with the chats with actionable messages. And so we're really trying to take the power of this content management platform and deliver it wherever you are, on a website, in a chat experience, on a phone, and be really flexible.
Yeah, it's really cool. And I mean, obviously we've got that. We've got so much other cool stuff that SharePoint hasn't been traditionally known for doing, but everybody's super excited. I know Spaces. There's a pent-up demand,
we're working hard on that one.
And we're working hard on that one. People are really excited about that. And just if you look back at like today's keynotes, and like I said, it was just packed full of announcements. Was there just one thing that one takeaway you would have for our customers, our partners, and enthusiasts today from all of the announcements?
Yeah, the one thing we're really working on as a company is being innovative in service to customers across Microsoft. That we're a big company, so it's easy to break up into little teams and everybody to focus on their area. But Satya has really stressed that we come together as one Microsoft with a customer-driven approach and build integrated solutions. And so one thing to sort of highlight that, we've talked about several things in that theme, but one thing we haven't talked about here is Microsoft Search.
Right.
It used to be SharePoint Search, right? You'd get the enterprise search solution, it was in SharePoint. Well, people want search everywhere. They want it in Yammer and Teams and Windows and Edge and Bing. And I told the story about how all these groups came together, and we had an internal repository for source code for the Microsoft UI. And teams around the world, the Bing team made dramatic contributions to that, as you'd expect. The people who are the biggest experts in Microsoft and have, frankly, the most search traffic is the Bing team. The FAST team, acquisition that I was so proud to have done 10 or so years ago, they're contributing code. Office.com, the SharePoint team. And so all these teams came together to build a search experience, a one Microsoft search experience built on this innovative machine learning capability and surfaced in all our experiences. Teams is contributing and so forth. So if there was one thing I'd take away is that SharePoint is still this magical product at the core that delivers a content collaboration platform and catalyzes this amazing community, but we're bringing all the assets to bear from Microsoft to deliver an integrated solution around it.
Yeah, and search is one that I personally love.
Yes.
But,
so we're doing a good job. You've
really,
a lot to promote.
I think Rick on the Twitch here is channeling our former friend Mr. Ballmer here. SharePoint.
Thank you, Rick.
Yes.
Yeah.
I couldn't have said it better.
Yeah.
People are. Like I said, I've seen the excitement after the keynote. It hasn't stopped all day because we had the world's greatest SharePoint developer keynote that Vesa led. We've had, for those in Vegas, we've had research sessions going on all day. And I just see the enthusiasm of everybody, and it's just great to see, because there was obviously a period of time where people on the outside said, well, what is SharePoint doing? And since we did that first SharePoint virtual summit down in San Francisco, it just seems that the foot's been on the pedal, and we've been innovating, which is really exciting.
It was it's. We don't talk about this much, but it's been all hands on deck to build a massive scale cloud service, as I talked about. 180,000 servers connected to lots of Azure services. That was not a trivial undertaking, and sort of going into all the work that's gone on there is of interest to techies, but like people would say, hey, I just want my website and file. Don't tell me how hard it was to do multi-geo because you'd originally architected SharePoint for all the services to be connected on a high-speed LAN, and that you had to go through all the code base and refactor that so it could have some my sites, or some my sites, oh my God, I can't believe I did some OneDrive for businesses. Oh my God. And team sites in different data centers, and still I get a common directory and search and compliance and so forth. That was a lot of engineering work. And so we are really grateful that people have been with us on the journey. We're excited that we could articulate such a bold vision with the future of SharePoint 3 years ago. We're excited that we've delivered on most of that vision, and that people have responded by growing Office 365 to 100 million monthly active users, which is pretty unbelievable for a business service. This is not a consumer service with sort of discretionary, let me share a photo with you. This is, hey, this is our business tool. Our business depends on it.
So you talk about that was the vision 3 years ago. What do you see in the next 3 years?
I think we continue to do more work to make things simpler. Home sites is a good signature of the kind of work we want to do to increase the value people get and how fast. And so user experience simplicity. You see us doing that. In particular, mobile. Mobile is a good example where we have one of the teams, the design team for the core part of Office works for me. And we have we've got the Fluent design language, and we're implementing it across mobile devices, and you're starting to see, hey, if I'm familiar with OneDrive and Outlook and SharePoint and Teams, they're all starting to work together. So simplicity, one thing.
And to that one Microsoft concept you brought up earlier, we're seeing that across not just SharePoint, but other organizations as well. And it's a great thing for us to be able to extend to consumers of our tools.
And part of that simplicity is things coming together. SharePoint plugging inside Teams, Teams plugging inside SharePoint, Power Apps plugging inside SharePoint, Stream and Yammer, all connecting. We've got some really exciting work across all of those axes to deliver a simpler solution. A big overarching thing is where we ended with Naomi today, though, around AI. That I'll give the most mainstream example of machine learning in Microsoft is outside the search space in Bing, which is probably the biggest, is PowerPoint. That PowerPoint, we've done a capability called Designer, where you can throw pictures on a slide and it starts designing them for you. You can type words on a slide and it turns them into icons. And we've started to take this and expose it in Excel to suggest insights into charts and data. we showed it build in Word with ideas to help you with writing. And Naomi showed it at the end with machine teaching, where people can make content a lot more intelligent. And so I think there's one world of AI and machine learning that is about the professionals who are building machine learning models for their company. Maybe they're an oil company that want to predict refinery processing and build a custom model in Azure ML. There's that world. The world we're in is helping people be more productive by having the systems learn from them and help them. You know, nobody loves creating a great slide deck for a SharePoint Saturday more than me, but sometimes I've sort of realized after I'm done, I've spent like 2 hours on the thing, and 2 days, let's be truthful. And we should be able to give you a gorgeous presentation that's leveraging the branding from your company, the best slides from your colleagues, turning your ideas into great visualizations in a matter of minutes. And so I think whether it's communications or content creation, we're really excited about the power of machine learning in mainstream user experiences. So you don't even think about it. The things that PowerPoint Designer does are actually all there in the ribbon in PowerPoint if you hunted and pecked around for 2 hours.
Okay.
And instead we have ML learning from what people have done and just doing it for you and suggesting it.
Showing you these are some cool practices other folks have done.
You know, and we've seen some of that come through even from search,
Yeah.
through commanding.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
actions.
So it's still early in all this. We see proof points in PowerPoint, in Microsoft Search, of its value. But you asked where we think this is going.
Yeah.
I think in 5 years we'll be sitting here and we'll be talking about all the things that we used to do manually through a graphical user interface that the software just does for us.
Figured it out and we give it basic instructions.
Yes.
Nice.
And personalized home sites powered by machine learning and Microsoft Search are a step on that journey.
Yeah, and that's really exciting. Personalization is what everybody has
Yes.
kind of been clamoring for.
Yes.
And you know, that's just
Without having to do the work to write all the custom code for it.
Exactly. So, you know, we want to be respectful of your time joining our audience today. I'll throw a challenge question at you to see if you can leave something for our audience. If there was one, and I know, you know, we talked in the beginning about nostalgia versus living in the present.
Yeah.
But for those that are nostalgic, if there was one thing that was unique about Tahoe that you just remember, you know, what would that be?
Yeah, one thing that was unique about Tahoe.
Or just a memory or something that just kind of captured you or that sticks in your mind about that particular release.
We'd worked on that for a long time, actually. You know, like any V1, everybody who's ever done a successful startup will tell you about the pivot.
Yes.
And so we had some pivots in V1. And when we finally were getting to beta 1, I really wanted the team to sort of take a pause and celebrate shipping a beta, but gear up for just how much hard work was left to get to RTM. Because that was waterfall software. It wasn't agile. You like wrote a lot of code and you stabilized a lot of code, so it took a while. And so we had 10 early adopter customers in our TAP program, we called them then. And I personally went and got all their logos and sifted through all their feedback and found the best quote from each of them and made, actually in PowerPoint, these posters that said Tahoe, beta 1 is coming. And I think I have the file somewhere that showed the logo of the company and their quote. And I printed a bunch of copies of them out myself. Late at night, I went around with Scotch tape and taped them on all the walls so you couldn't miss them.
Wow.
To say to the team, you know, your hard work on this thing that some days you weren't sure was going to ship is shipping, and customers like it. Now, roll up your sleeves, grab a pizza, and get back to fixing bugs so we can ship it and create this thing that we didn't know at the time would be called SharePoint. And here we are today, 20 years later. Tahoe has come and grown and become SharePoint and Office 365 and Microsoft 365.
Oh, yeah.
And while we've been doing the show, tens of thousands of new people are using it.
That's awesome. Yeah, that is really cool here. So again, we want to thank you for your time. We know you're extremely busy, but everybody loves to hear from you. So thanks once again,
Bill.
Jeff.
Thanks,
coming
Jeff.
by.
Thanks so much for joining
It
us.
was fun.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thanks everybody for tuning in.
Thanks everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.
We'll see you tomorrow right back here, SharePoint TV.